do I become a photographer? I say it's not easy because you need that buffer, you need that support to get that kickstart.
So you said Tarun Bhasckar convinced you to come back to India and start your own business here.
Whenever I came back for a holiday, usually we'll call Tarun, we'll go have some chai. We'll say, no, nothing. We'll have one chai, we'll have one samosa and just talk about nonsense.
So from Project K to Kalki.
I was on set on the first day in 2021 where we got the clapperboard shot of Prabhas doing the clapperboard with Amitabh Bachchan sir in the background.
So how does it feel to shoot such a big actor?
He is equally as adaptive as anyone else on set. He doesn't come with any ego. He doesn't come with any kind of attitude.
So why is professional photographer still important today? Everyone has got their cameras and phones and all. So why do you think is a professional photographer important today?
You are not necessarily paying for the device of a camera. You are paying for the mind of the artist.
So what does it take to become a photographer today?
So I think in today's time and age, being a photographer is probably harder than ever because you really have to showcase why you are adding value to the world as a photographer.
Welcome to the third episode of Knowledge Transfer with Tarun Kondapalli. So today we have a very special guest, Kishor Krishnamurthy. He's a renowned wedding photographer with over 650 weddings under his belt, and he's even shot posters for movies like Kalki. In this episode, Kishor shares valuable insights on why professional photographers are still crucial even in a world where so many people rely on phones for their pictures. He also talks about how photographers can achieve a healthy work-life balance and what they should focus on beyond just taking pictures, like mastering negotiations, understanding taxations, and handling the business side of photography. Make sure to watch this podcast till the end and don't forget to subscribe to ktwithtk. So thank you so much, Kishor. It's a pleasure to have you on our show.
Thank you, Tarun, for having me here today.
From editor of newsletter in HPS Hyderabad to University of Essex and a part-time photographer in London. Can you share us your journey?
So I think it's quite a long journey to summarize, but it has its own ups and downs. It's obviously covered the globe, but I think the very first part of it, as you said, editor for the newsletter in school, was the part where first I started taking photos. This is back in about 2005 or 6, so almost 20 years ago. So that was just more of a hobby or something, just an interest to take photos for the school newsletter. I used to have a small camera. It used to be a Sony T33. I don't know if you remember these. There used to be like a credit card sized camera that used to go kind of fit in my front pocket of my school uniform. So I used to have that and kind of shoot events in schools, shoot daily life. But basically, it offered me an opportunity to have a camera with me at all times. Admittedly, today with mobile phones, we have a camera with us at all times. But 20 years ago, that wasn't the norm, right? A camera was only brought out for a special occasion or for a celebration.
True. But
on a daily basis, nobody really kept a camera. But I was doing that because that's what my kind of passion for it. So after school, I went to university in England. My degree was very different. I studied economics and politics as my undergrad degree. But at the same time, I had a passion for photography. So I bought my first DSLR there. I bought a Canon 40D back in 2007.
Okay.
So with that, I was keen on monetizing it. So I wrote to the university and the students saying, can I get a job as a part-time photographer? And they were open because again, this is back to a time where not many people had cameras and they needed good photos. So I got a part-time job as a photographer there. I was the president of the photo society there. So I think that gave me a lot of opportunity over those 3 years of education to try out a lot of genres of photography. Because there, you're shooting sports for the student newspaper. You're shooting parties in the nightclub for the job as a student's union. You're shooting photos of the campus for the prospectus. So it's a very wide range of things I was covering. And there was nothing I didn't ever say no to anything. Someone saying, can you take some photos? Because I was kind of the known photographer on campus. So any sports club society needed photos, they'd usually write an email to me saying, Kishor, we have this, can you come and shoot for us? Either it would be paid, things at a budget, or say, we'll just get you a few drinks afterwards. And I was usually okay with it because I was just keen on shooting as much as possible. More so for experience and excitement rather than anything else. Because I also knew, this kind of opportunity doesn't come very often in life. So
you were having that edge over others.
In terms of
he's a photographer, give us a special attention for
Correct. Yeah. And this is also, this is probably just the beginning of Facebook. There was no Instagram at this point. Facebook was there. So
this was in which year?
2007 to 2010.
2007 to 2010, okay.
So there was always a habit of sharing on Facebook and tagging people.
Yeah.
So that used to get your main mileage. Now we tag on Instagram. But Facebook is a very different beast to Instagram, even today, right? So the shareability on Facebook is much more. You kind of go through it. It's a very different social experience on Facebook. So, and then I was shooting with, basically whatever I was earning, my intention was I will spend on photography equipment. I didn't want to take money from home to buy photography equipment. So I bought like the first kit I said was a Canon 40D, and I had a Tamron 18 to 250mm lens. The reason I bought the lens is I can do everything that one lens. So I could shoot sports, I could shoot landscapes. Admittedly, today's standard wasn't a great lens, whatever I shoot today, but it did the job for me at that instance. I bought a 50mm 1.8, the 5,000 rupee Nifty 50 lens. That was my first kind of second investment. Then I bought flashes, off-camera triggers for flashes, tripod, and slowly built. Basically, when I get a paycheck, I'll save it for a bit and buy something.
So do you come from a well-off family, or it's all your money that you've put it in the photography?
So my family basically support me in terms of education, but photography has been basically what I earned is what I spent. Admittedly, the camera was bought by my father. See, again, that's one thing I always tell people. There's no point beating around the bush. I do come from a family that's given me the freedom of being able to purchase a camera for me without having that burden on me. And this is something I tell many people. And they say, do I become a photographer? I say it's not easy because you need that buffer. You need that support to get that kickstart.
True.
I'm very grateful for that kickstart I had because my school was very helpful to me. My parents were helpful. My education was helpful. So I had a good kickstart. And of course, after a while, it becomes your journey to start. But you get that push, right? You push the bike, then you bicycle after. But you have the push is there. So that came from that.
So you were also an oil trader, right?
Correct. So after university days, so after my third year university, I also ran to become the president of the Students' Union. The overall, not the photo, the overall Students' Union, because I was in student politics at that time. I got involved because of my friends at university. So I ran in the elections to be president of the Students' Union, and I won. And I was the first non-EU president of the Students' Union in the history of the university. So that was a 1-year job. So in the UK, being the president is a 1-year full-time paid job to work in the Students' Union. So I did that for a year. And then after that, I went and worked in London as an oil trader. Because again, my degree is economics and politics. Normally, these kind of degrees, you either go into finance, you go to consultancy, you go to banking. So I went into finance essentially.
So photography, if you probably do what you're doing it here, if you do it in the London itself, you probably would have earned a little more.
No, I never considered that bad because for me, I came back to India in 2012 for a break. And I was kind of tired of working as an oil trader because you're just looking at screens. And I am by default quite a social person. I like to go out, I like to shoot. So putting me in front of a screen was not really pushing me to the best of my abilities. So I'd come back home in 2012 for a break for a friend's sister's wedding. And then, I grew up with Tarun, Bhasckar and all these people because they were, we were the same school, same locality of Maradpalli. And they were trying something at this point because they're also starting off their film career. So they kind of said, why don't you come to India and start something creative? Because you do have a creative eye, we'll support you. We are doing wedding films, you can do wedding photography. And somehow that snowballed into a proper idea. So I left my job and came back to India.
Tell us about the killer titles concept and the design, the logo design of Kishor Krishnamurthy.
This is a long time ago. This is 2008, right? So it's a very long time ago. It's basically a blogging contest. I was here for summer holidays. And I think Tarun's uncle was having some festival. I don't know what festival it was in Warangal. So we were all going to go for the festival. So we went for the festival. There they were killing goats and we were having the typical Telangana mutton biryani kind of festival. So it was pretty interesting. I was obviously photographing the whole process because it was right in front of the house. They were killing the goats and they were cooking right away. And they were giving us beja fry and all of this stuff. And it was also extremely spicy for me. I remember Tarun's mom was asking me, Kishor, why are you crying? I'm like, auntie, it's so spicy. I can't eat it. So there was a contest going on at that point because at that time blogging was quite big. Like how today you have Instagram, whatever it is. That time blogging was the main thing. Yeah. So I had a blog and there was a contest saying that whoever writes the best title or a killer title wins a custom-made logo by this designer called David Airy, who's a very high-end designer. I think he used to charge upwards of $2,000 to $4,000 at that point in time for making a logo. So my title was killing goats or sacrificing goats and eating brains because that's what we were doing. That obviously caught the attention of many people. And it's a Western-based concept, right? Because there they don't see these things, but I think really blew their minds. So I won the contest and then I got in touch with David Airy and he used to kind of had a questionnaire for me about what kind of logo I want, etc., etc. This is way beyond a time I even thought of being a photographer. But somehow subconsciously I said, I want something that I can use as a watermark or can be on my website to do with photography. So he came up with the idea of the concave and convex lens, which also kind of looks like a K in my logo.
Yes.
That was his thought process basically. He gave me 2-3 options, but some of this really clicked because to be honest, making a really good logo is a very, very difficult job. Even, because there's plenty of logos out there which is made with a nice font, but a logo must be looking good in any size. It must be recognizable in any kind of colors. There's a lot of thought process that goes into making a really good logo. So he's obviously done all that and he kind of came saying that this will look good in every format and I immediately was like adapted it. So yeah, that's basically the story of that.
So you said Tarun Bhasckar convinced you to come back to India and start your own business here, start your own photography business.
Correct.
So how did he convince you?
Whenever I came back for a holiday, usually we'll call Tarun, we'll go have some chai, we'll sit and do nothing. It was just sitting in this cafe called Ramsar Cafe in Maradpalli. We'll go, we'll sit, we'll have one chai, we'll have one samosa and just talk about nonsense. But of course, this nonsense over the years, this is again nonsense starting from 2007 onwards. Every year, summer holidays, winter holidays, come and sit and do nonsense. Then slowly, along the way, I was seeing them do something creative because I was only coming back for 2 times a year, but they were here all the time. Then we did this whole short film contest and all of these things. So it slowly started burgeoning into actually reality, where once upon a time making films was just a hobby. They were suddenly seeing that we could make a career out of this with the way the world was going that time. So they're also similarly, we took photos of each other, whatever. And they're like, why don't you start doing wedding photography or some kind of photography where we can monetize and build a living here? And I think over time it made sense to me because what I was doing there wasn't the most attractive for me as a creative individual. Like stock trading and oil trading is a very, how do I say it, antisocial job. You're focused on the computer, you have your immediate desk mate, but above and beyond that, there's not much more you can do. Whereas photography, I get to meet all of you guys and every day it's a new day for me and this is what I actually enjoy. So I think that was part of the, it's not like one day a switch flipped, right? It took time and then came that way.
So from Project K to Kalki, so just share us your journey.
So it's a long journey of 3 years. I was on set on the first day in 2021 where we got the clapperboard shot of Prabhas doing the clapperboard with Amitabh Bachchan sir in the background. And that was like immediately I had to send it to them to put on Instagram and like announce that day of shooting is happening. So I think every year I've been there for about between 1 week to 2 weeks for a shoot. They used to call me whenever Amitabh Bachchan sir was on set or whenever they felt that we could pull out some nice content for the final posters. When Kamal Hassan had come down, when Disha Patani had come down. I think when Deepika had come down, I was not in the country, so I couldn't go. So I used to Swapna will call me or Nagi will call me and say, Kishor, can you come or whatever it is. So I used to go and shoot and it was a fairly organic process because when I used to go on set, they used to always explain to me what's happening. Someone would either, Nagi himself would tell me, this is what is happening, Kishor, this is what I think you can get out of this, and this is what, etc., etc. And in between takes, I'd be given time to get some post portraits. Especially I think almost all the photos of Amitabh Bachchan that you see in the various posters have all been taken by me only.
Nice.
Over the course of different parts of shoot. Some shots were planned wherein, they pause everything and they say just for the photos, so I have to go and kind of shoot exclusively for the photographs. Some shots were taken over the course of the shoot where the cinematography is also happening and I also take photos on the side. So a mix of both.
So how does it feel to shoot such a big actor?
He's also a very humble person. He's very down to earth. He's willing to do what you want to do for the shoot and he's equally as adaptive as anyone else on set. He doesn't come with any ego. He doesn't come with any kind of attitude. So working with him is quite a straightforward aspect, I would say. It didn't feel any scary or angry at all because also you're there with him for so many days, right? You just see him day in and day out. See, there's a lot of, even my parents like, oh my God, you're shooting Amitabh Bachchan. I'm like, I'm just taking some photos, mom. So I still don't feel that kind of level of magic that I think people think it is to work with a big actor. So it becomes very normal after a while. Yeah.
So do you consider photography as a business or an art?
So I think photography at its core is an art. Let us say like even sculpting is an art. It's a form of art. It's a form of capturing what is around you. It could be a posed capture. Let us say you're doing a fashion shoot or something where you're posing, or it could be documentary, where you're just documenting what is around the world of it. But at the core of what is happening, be it with a digital SLR camera, with a film camera, with a medium format camera, it is at its core an art form. And only when that art form thrives, you will also feel yourself growing. Along the way, depending on who you are and what is your journey, you could choose to make it a business or a source of income, as a source of livelihood. While it could be a source of livelihood, at the heart of it, it is still an art. It is basically like you've chosen to make your art a source of livelihood. So because see, tomorrow there's a sculptor who sculpts and makes art, or the painter who's doing canvas. They're still an artist at the core of it, but they've chosen to make that their livelihood. Because there are also equally people who may have a normal, regular job and choose to do this in the weekend, when they're still treating it as an art form. Someone like you and I, and maybe some other people who you may have interviewed on the podcast, have chosen to make it as a source of livelihood. True. And when you've chosen to make it a sense of livelihood, you automatically make that conscious choice to say, this is going to earn me some XYZ amount of money. I'm going to pay my rent. I'm going to pay my EMIs. I'm going to do this through my revenue from photography. And then how much you choose to scale up after that, whether you want to make, you have to have yourself as the employee, where you want 10 employees, 100 employees, that comes on purely to your own level of passion for it, your business acumen, and your ability to scale up. Because very often there's a mistake that I've seen many people make and heard many people make, is to consider that passion for photography will translate into a successful business. That's not true. Because you could be an excellent photographer, phenomenal, but a very poor businessman. And therefore you will not be able to run it as a business. Because to translate shoots, see, we don't work in a company where you get paid X amount every month. You get paid maybe 1 month, there's no season. You have to run with that money from these months. You have to manage your funding. You have to manage your cash flow. There's so many things to think about, which has to be juggled with the creative choice as well. Now, if you're only able to do the creative choice and not so good at the business part, you will start to falter. And then it kind of goes. And then many people I've seen who have not been able to manage both. It's not easy. It's a very difficult choice. And vice versa, if you're just excellent at numbers and not very good at creativity, also you will not run. You need to have that balance of both. What normal people say, Manchigundi Babu photo. But what does that mean? What does Manchigundi mean? As a photographer, people define that. I like this photo because the colors are pleasing, the composition is good, etc., etc. So you have to build your eye to understand what makes a good photo. Your taste preference will definitely be different from my taste preference because we're different individuals. You may like red, I may like blue. You may like bright photos, I may like muted photos. It can be difference. But what is important is you understand why you like an image that you've seen someone else shoot, and subsequently how can you transfer that into an image that you are shooting. Then you'll be able to understand. So I think it's about just being more conscious and aware and questioning many things. It can be any format. It could be an Instagram, it could be a photo book, it could be a magazine, it could be anything, or it could be even a movie poster. This looks good. When they say it looks good, you should say, why does it look good? As an artist, you have to question, and break it down. It looks good because in Devara poster, NTR's face looks good, the lighting is good, the backdrop is good, his clothes are good, the pose is good. Why is it good? You have to understand that. And then consciously, next time you shoot something, you'll start questioning everything. So it's being more conscious and deliberate about your art.
Should that be the taste of the photographer, or should that be the taste of the client?
It has to be a taste of photographer, which the client will appreciate. Because there can be a photographer whose taste may not work with client number 1, but client number 2 may like it. And client number 3 may like it. Client number 1 will find another photographer that this photo likes. So everyone will have a different mix. No? See, tomorrow, you may not like Coke, but I may like Coke. Satish may like Sprite.
No, he likes something else.
So, but I'm saying you may like Ultra, Satish may like Budweiser. I may say I like Broadway Brewed Beer, for example. That doesn't mean you're wrong or I'm wrong or Satish is wrong. It's a different preference. But you should know, why do you like Budweiser? Or so you like Ultra, why does Satish like Budweiser? Or why do I like this? But you have to question your preferences.
Yeah.
When you start, and it's hard to question it. Because sometimes we're usually in the Indian education system, we are trained not to question. Listen to a teacher. Don't ask questions. Why are you asking questions? Sit quietly. This is what they told. But as a creative, you must ask questions. To yourself, to your work, to everyone else's work also. Why is that looking good? Why is this painted green? Why is that painted black? Why is this light over here? Question. Everything will have an answer. If it doesn't have an answer, go and find the answer. But you should question. And then you will grow. There's nobody going to answer it for you. You have to do it yourself. It's not an easy task. And then you'll come at an answer. You also come, and then you'll also start to build your own preference in your work. I like this color, so I'm going to use this color in my frame. I'm going to tone my photo slightly warm or slightly cold because I like that. That is your preference. You build that preference from what you visually like from X amount of reasons, and then you come to that. But you have to question, you have to research, you have to understand, you have to analyze and come to a decision. Making a decision creatively is very important. Very often people say, when you see these paintings which are looking very abstract, what is there in that? I can also do that. But did you do it? No. Because coming up with that is complicated. It requires a certain level of thought process, a certain level of questioning, a certain level of decision making to put one white line in an entire black canvas and say this white line means something. There's an old Tamil movie with this actor called Nagesh, which even before my time also. He'll want to be an artist. His father will be like, why you want to be an artist? What is art? He'll take his 5 hands, he'll go put in paint and put on a canvas and say, this is art. His father will be like, have you gone mental? What is that art? He'll like, those 5 fingers represent the 5 elements of earth. This is this, he'll explain. His father will be blown your mind. So the creation of the art is important, but the thought process behind the creation is
much
equally
more
or more important than the art.
So I've seen a couple of your interviews. You said over a time, photographers become a part of their family. Photography in Indian weddings are something where it's not about bride and groom coming together. It's about two families coming together.
Correct. Most marriages in India happen at a fair scale, right? It's not like it's only 20 people. You have at least 300, 400 people for even a mid-sized wedding in India, which automatically means it is X number of people who are coming from the bride's family, X number of people from the groom's family, and they all are coming together to celebrate the union of these two. But also requires those families to kind of get along, blend along. And the rituals are also designed that way, right? You have rituals where this father meets that father, this Peddan meets that Peddan. That's all part of the way it works. That's the way the Indian rituals are, traditions are designed to ensure it is two families who bond with each other and support this couple in their new journey. Particularly South Indian weddings and Telugu weddings have a lot of fun in them. The rituals are itself quite fun because you have your multiple rituals. You have a Jilakara Belam, you have a Tal, you have Talambralu, you have the ring game. All of this forms a fairly interactive wedding ritual.
Usually what happens, it is more like what bride wants and groom acts accordingly.
I mean, I think this is a global phenomenon, right? See, because I think most men don't really grow up with the dream of how their wedding is. They may grow up with the dream of maybe how they want their wife or potential wife to be. But I don't think very few of us really picture how we want our wedding to be. But I think culturally, and this could be right or wrong, but at least culturally there is a kind of subconscious way that is advertised towards women to build and fantasize about their dream wedding, right? They picture a certain location, they may picture a certain outfit, a certain jewelry, vice versa. So automatically that kind of, when they get married, they want to put that into reality. See, I think men, you may dream more about buying a bike or a car, and that may be a default thing. Again, I'm not intending to make a very gender bias here. I'm just saying culturally this is what we have seen, right? So very few percentage of men will come and say, I really want this for my wedding. But most brides will say, I'd like this for my wedding. And this is what we've seen culturally.
So why is professional photographer still important today? Everyone has got their cameras and phones and all. So why do you think is a professional photographer important today?
So I think that's quite an important question, Tarun, because see, what I think professional photography by itself also is multiple genres. I mean, for the sake of ease of discussion, I'll pick wedding photography because that's what we do as of now. We can get into other genres, but let us say, why is wedding photography important today when everyone has a phone camera to cover the weddings? There's two parts of it. I think the first part comes down to shooting is as important as archival and retrieval. So to basically put that in a better way, everyone shoots plenty of photos of their phones on a daily basis. But how many of them are successfully backed or printed for long-term retrieval? That's questionable. Some of us may be more disciplined in the backup. Most people aren't. So suppose you have an iPhone 10 today, whatever it is. In 10 years, when that phone is not working anymore, when that cable is not existing anymore, how will you retrieve that data? Because you've taken it as a casual thing, because you've not really thought too much about what is going to happen to this photo in 20 years. Whereas most photographers try to think of photos on a long-term basis, right? I tend to think of myself as a wedding photographer who's capturing photos of today's generation for the next generation. So automatically I'm thinking of long-term data management, long-term archival for the client and ourselves as well. So that ensures that that photo, be it in an album format or whatever format, is accessible 2, 3, 4 decades later. That is one important part, because I know personally people have shot photos on their phone of some small celebration in the house and have either lost the phone or not backed up properly and never been able to access those photos, even though that may have been an important moment for them. So this is one kind of point. The other kind of point is that you are not necessarily paying for the device of a camera. You are paying for the mind of the artist who is using that camera. The artist who is the photographer could choose to use a Canon, a Sony, a Nikon, Fuji, or even an iPhone or a Samsung. But what they choose to do with it is what we're paying for. And that's what people should be clear about, because they're not paying for a technician who knows how to operate a camera, because that's almost everyone these days. But they're paying for an artist who knows how to operate in a way that will amaze someone else. See, because to pick it in a different way, all of us have access to a typewriter and a keyboard. But you're not J.K. Rowling. I am not J.K. Rowling. Why? We have the same tool as them, because we don't have that thought process. So the tool by itself does not create the end product. You can give the same camera to 25 people, but everyone creates something different. So what are we paying for? We're paying for that vision. We're hiring that person, photographer, who, him or her, has a certain vision. Again, I say photographer, it could be cinematographer, videographer, whatever it is. And for that vision to be applied to our celebrations of life or our daily life. And that is essentially what we want to have. So you can have all your cousins or your relatives shooting with phones, but you get a professional person, there'll be a certain approach to it. And there'll be a certain vision they will be able to impart on your day, which will create a long-lasting memory from that day, which will be far better than what a casual person can do.
So how much do you usually charge for a wedding? If you take wedding as an example, how much do you usually charge for a wedding?
Charge for a wedding can depend anything from 1 lakh to 20 lakhs depending on what scale of event it is. There's so many permutations and combinations that it's hard to have a one-off number because everyone has a different priority, everyone has a different option. So it's a very large gamut. It could fall in the lower half of the gamut, it could fall in the higher half of the gamut, depending on what level of celebrations that they're there. We're all photographers. You have good photographers, you have bad photographers. See, let's be honest, there are bad photographers. We don't want to individually name people, but there are bad photographers as well. And eventually people will understand, identify and know what is a good photographer and what is a bad photographer. And when I say bad photographer, I don't necessarily mean they're bad at operating the camera per se. They could be an excellent technician, but they're bad at overall maybe creating the vision that the end customer would like. Or they're average at creating that vision. So that market forces of the way the world works will dictate who is good and bad eventually. But having said that, now within good photographers, you will already have different segments. I will take an example of cars. You have a Maruti car, which is 5-10 lakhs, whatever it is. You have a mid-level Toyota, which is maybe 40-50 lakhs. Then you have Mercedes, which is 1-2 crores. All of these are 4 wheels. All of these will have AC. They will all take you from Begumpet to BHEL successfully with the same level of speed because the traffic is the same. But one person would like to prefer to buy one person would prefer to buy like another. It does not mean one is bad or good. They're all good vehicles. They just fall under different segments. They fall to cater to different categories of people. They have different levels of comfort. In a Mercedes, you may have very excellent suspension compared to a Maruti. The Maruti owner may not care for much suspension and he's willing to spend this much only. So within the spectrum of good photographers, you will have people who charge different rates of money to depict the different value they are offering to the final client, who subsequently is identifying that and hiring them for that reason. See, because if you go to the basics of marketing and sales, there's this excellent this book called Marketing Management by Philip Kotler, who says that basically you have to add value. How much value you add is up to you. Tomorrow you can say I will add 1 rupee value, or I will add 100 rupees or 10,000 rupees value. And if you're adding value in a fair level, the market will reward you. If you're adding value in an unfair level, the market will not reward you. See, because today you may say, Kishor, here's a matchbox. This matchbox is good. I know matchbox is not more than 5 rupees, maximum 10 rupees, whatever it is. If you tell me this matchbox is 5,000 rupees, I'll be like, why is this matchbox 5,000 rupees? You'll be like, no, this matchbox cover was designed by Sabyasachi. And I might purchase it for 5,000 rupees. Or I may say, Leda match is I just sort of light it. No, what is that? I'll buy the 10 rupee matchbox. So there may be a market for that 5,000 rupee matchbox. There may be a market for 10 rupee matchbox. There may also be a 100 rupee matchbox where you say this is some eco-friendly matchbox or whatever it is. So there exist different spectrums. There could also be a situation where you're selling me the 5,000 rupee matchbox, but you're saying, Kishor, it just looks good. This is a red color, that is blue color. And I may say, dude, nobody's going to buy that. And nobody will buy that and that product will fail. So you have to understand what is the value you're adding, at what level you're adding that value. Is it required by the consumer? Is there a need for that value? And is it the fair price you're charging for that?
So what does it take to become a photographer today?
So I think in today's time and age, being a photographer is probably harder than ever because you really have to showcase why you're adding value to the world as a photographer. Now the first thing is that photography by itself, I think going back to what we spoke earlier about business versus art, while the art part of it seem very appealing to a lot of people, especially with social media, you kind of imagine photography being that you're going to be in a exotic location shooting celebrities all the time. That couldn't be farther from the truth. Yes, there is a small segment of people doing that. But by and large, when you get into photography as a profession, you must accept that shooting will be X amount of time. There'll be X amount of time discussing, negotiating, paperwork, taxes, admin work, etc., etc., etc. And you have to be ready for that today. And I don't think that is spoken widely enough to people to be aware of that part. Because we see photographers as people who take photos. And that's what our name suggests. But you and me both know that we do a lot of other things apart from that, which is the bottom of the iceberg, right? You have an iceberg, you see a top 1/6. The bottom is the bottom part. The bottom part is equally important more than the top part. Similarly, photography, The bottom part is equally important. But for someone who's quite young, who is, just looking at the world around them and thinking that, oh, this looks like a fun profession, let me do it. They may be slightly misled once they actually put their 2 feet and understand what it is about. Because there's a lot of other stuff you have to do apart from just taking photos to be a long-term, sustainable, successful photographer. See, again, when I say long-term, sustainable and successful, these are important words. Because to be a photographer, it is equally possible to be a photographer who is taking excellent photos, but we may not be able to successfully monetize that. And maybe perhaps you come from a well-off family where you don't need to monetize it, and that's great. And sometimes the social media also lulls you into this false sense wherein there may be people who are posting excellent photos around the world or whatever it is, and like, I want to be like that person. But what you may not know that person comes with a very wealthy background where he may not or she may not have had to charge for the photos, and they can just shoot what they want. So it is
out of passion, out
of interest, whatever it is. But it is important to understand where is your true sense lie. What is your background? What is your reality? Is this a suitable career option for you? Keeping in mind passion, keeping in mind finance also. Is it going to be sustainable in the long run, or is it going to be a short blip? Because short blip is easy. See, short blip, tomorrow I can say I want to be a band. I can learn to play guitar and I can play 2 gigs and come back. And I can say I was a guitarist. But that's not a long-term sustainable choice. So,
kind of a hobby.
It can become hobby. It becomes something you may just tell people, I used to take photos, I used to be in a band. But if you're looking at it to be a long-term sustainable career path, it's a very different mindset you have to enter into. That you have to accept that there's going to be this much amount of time I'm going to photography, this much amount of time I'm going to edit, and etc. etc. There's a whole list of tasks that you have to do. And those tasks aren't glamorous. They're not fun for social media to see. They're not going to be shared by many people. But those are the reality of this. So, see, to give you an example, there was once recently someone I know, I think their housework or someone's, their son was interested in photography and wanted a job in photography. So he called up and said, can you help him out? And he's just finished his 12th. So he's about 17, 18 years old. I said, it's great, but I think it's fairly early to decide that this is to be a career. It would be good if he can invest some time to understand what are the nuances of it, to either learn technically what is important, spend some time, learn a diploma or do some kind of course to fully understand what are the ups and downs of photography. And I say course, there are many courses which just focus on the creative part. I think it's important to understand, to take a course that speaks both about the creative and the non-creative part of photography. And when you learn that entire gamut of work that is involved, sometimes you may decide, this is not for me, boss, I want to go into something else. Or sometimes you may decide, I'm willing to jump through all these hoops and become a photographer. But you need to have that reality check, which will not come from a wider social media base, essentially.
So how does a beginner photographer build his portfolio?
So I think for portfolio these days is more or less an Instagram account. I mean, once upon a time you saw a print portfolio, that doesn't exist anymore. But when you say portfolio, I think depending on what you want to do, it's about using your immediate friends and family to create that portfolio. For example, when I first started shooting, when I want to make portraits, I just took portraits of the friends around me. I'll say, come, we'll take one photo. And that became my kind of pseudo portfolio. And over time, then people say, oh, this is good work. And then they'll want to hire you either through Instagram or that on Facebook. So to build a portfolio, you have to rely on your immediate circle of friends and family to help you to shoot what you want. It could be portraits, it could be fashion, it could be weddings. Maybe someone in your family is getting married. Just go and shoot that wedding for fun without any expectation of pay or any expectation of an output. And when you create something nice, their relative or someone get married and say, hey, you did a good job. Can you shoot our wedding? And that's in fact how I got my first wedding gig. So the first wedding I shot wasn't for money, it was just for fun. But then the photos became more popular than the official photographer's photos, that the circle started hiring me, and that's how that ball got rolling. So if you're doing a really good job at what you do and you're able to spread that word in your circle, people will recognize and hire you. So first thing, you have to do a good job. You have to wow some people.
That is there.
And then it may come through.
So with the rise of AI, so do you think is it a boon or a bane to the profession?
I think AI overall is not good for creative individuals, because I feel, yes, there are parts of AI we can utilize. See, there's small bits of AI like your Photoshop, generative action and the other stuff. And that's a very minor part of add-on to your creative process. But I feel overall AI eventually, because AI also as a tool by itself works of other people's work. It has no mind of itself, right? It gathers work, trawls the internet for free content and builds something of that. So two things can happen out of this. It will be used by bigger people up to make creative content without having to deal with creatives. So suppose you're running a big ad agency, you have 5 graphic designers Tomorrow you may decide saying, I don't need 5, I'll just have one who will make on AI, the other 4 can go home. So the creativity dies out there. That's a possibility. The other possibility, which I see more likely happening, is that this may happen in the short run, but eventually AI will start repeating itself. And then it will become mundane. And then you will need people to inject true energy into it. And I say, I spoke about AI visually, but even today, ChatGPT everyone speaks about. But to be honest, if someone sends me a message written by ChatGPT, I can tell in 1 second whether it's ChatGPT or human written. ChatGPT has its own language. You can read out now. I had asked someone the other day to send me something I was working on. And I read the whole thing and said, dude, this is ChatGPT. You didn't write this. He's like, yes, sir. It's very obvious. You know it's ChatGPT. If you're clever enough. The same will happen in a visual format as well, where you know this is an AI generated image, this is an AI generated art or whatever it is. So I feel that cycle may end unless something comes to push it further. At the end of this again goes back to how we spoke earlier, that weddings are of 2 families coming together.
Yes.
It is not of a couple saying, generate photo of me and my fiance in Lake Como wearing Sabyasachi clothes. He'll probably do a great job at it, but doesn't depict those 2 families coming together. And that still has to be captured by human only, at least as of now.
So photography is a profession AI can't replace.
As of now. Whereas tomorrow you could go to AI, this is a photo of me, this is my mom and dad, please make a photo of 3 hours smiling wearing this clothes. It may make it, but it's not a reflection of a moment you have lived through. It's a moment you have created. But when you look at that photo, like, I remember this is a joke I was telling my dad. My dad laughed. My mom saw him also start laughing. And this is a joke I was telling them. That becomes a memory for you that is etched through a visual image. Or a video also.
So we frequently keep hearing photographers who work late nights and all. How do you set work-life boundaries in photography?
So see, I think work-life boundaries is 2 parts. Because definitely when I have to go to shoot, I have to go to shoot. I can't really... if the wedding muhurtam is 1 a.m., we're there. We're shooting at whatever time the wedding muhurtam is. So I think in terms of shoot, it's hard to have a very different boundary like a 9 to 5 job. I think that's something you're aware of when you become a photographer. Because, see, for example, Sunday and Monday I was shooting. I didn't have any weekend. I've been working through the last 2 weeks. Every Sunday I've had a shoot or I've been traveling. That's fine because I know that as a photographer, that is my job. That's my profession. I didn't get into this to have a government of India bank role where I go to morning 9:30 and come back home at 5. I think that's something I'm clear. But in the time that is in our control, I think it's very important to have that boundaries where you know what amount of time you want to commit to work and what amount of time you want to commit to family. So suppose, like right now, we don't have a wedding season. I try to work 9 to 5 and come back home. When people say, we work very late and deliver and all these things, that I feel usually comes through either poor planning or management of resource. If you have enough people to edit, if you have planned it well, you don't need them to work longer than 9 to 5. If you've given 5 people's work to 2 people, obviously you have to work more. So you have to understand how much resources are in my hand, how much work can people do. And unfortunately or fortunately in our country, there has become almost this unspoken habit that people have to work long, which I don't know why it even exists. In our office, you can ask most of my employees, very rarely they will have to work beyond 5:36. They maybe in a yearly handful of days will work longer than that. Because I plan, I know this is how much we have. Well, I will hire more people to do that work efficiently. I will pay them properly because that is important in life. Now, when people say we're only going to hire 2 people and make them do the work of 5 people, either they are saving money or they're not able to charge the right amount. So that is also the other part. When you're being underpaid by the client, you will also underpay your team. So you should be able to understand what it is the value of resources you have to deploy to cover a project and edit a project and subsequently charge for it. Suppose you're charging 1 lakh for a project and your costs are 90,000, then you will try to squeeze it to 70,000 because you're going to give more work to 2 guys, make them work doubly hard because your profit margin is so less.
It again affects the productivity, affects the quality, everything.
No, quality and productivity may not get affected. It's just unfair. Why do you want to make 2 guys do work of 5 guys? Because you can't pay enough. And you can't pay enough because you not charge the client enough. So it all comes down to money. See, at the end of the day, why are we squeezing out more resources? Because you don't want to pay people. Either you choose not to pay because you want a bigger profit margin, or you can't pay because you have not charged the client higher. But become the responsibility of the person to accurately distribute the resources so the people who work under him are not overworking.
So how big is your team?
So we have about 22 full-time people and we have about another 10 to 15 people who work with on a freelance basis. So about 35 people roughly you could say.
What should one have to work with Kishor Krishnamurthy?
I think the right attitude is important. I always tell people I can teach you how to edit on Premiere Pro, I can teach you how to edit on Lightroom, but I can't teach you the right attitude. That's something that's innate. I can teach them how to frame, I can teach them how to shoot, I can teach them how to use a camera. Everything we can teach and everything is a technical learnable skill. But the attitude and approach to life, to have enthusiasm, to have a keenness to learn, who have an open mind, is something that's hard to teach after a certain age. And that needs to come from an innate person. And again, it's not right or wrong. It's perfectly maybe find a different outlook and work in a different profession. But at least the people who work with me, I prefer to have a certain outlook because that's the kind of team we have built over so many years. From having 0 employees to having so many people who work with me now, all of them will share that same mindset if you ask anyone.
So how does a photographer maintain good relation with the client?
So I'll revert back to the question. How do you maintain a good friendship with your friends? How do you maintain a good relationship with your relatives? Same thing. You have to be warm. You have to be understanding. You have to be cooperative. You have to be affectionate. There has to be give and take. So it is as equal as nurturing any other relationship in life. You have to have the same level of care for them. Of course, this is a professional relationship. Those are personal relationships. There's a level of professionalism that is required. There's a level of communication that is required that has to be professional. But you must look at it with the same level of care that you would look at as your friend. If you look at it as purely the business direction, you will have a different kind of approach to it. This guy has come, he's paying me money, I'm giving him service, bye-bye. That's a different thing. But this guy has come, I'm going to be a part of his family for 5 days because I'm shooting 5 events. I will know everyone, they will all know me. After 5 days, we may never see each other again. But for those 5 days, we become best of friends. And then we'll continue to chat each other. So it's
then you travel for a long period of time.
There are many clients who we've covered their wedding and we covered their kids' first birthday, second birthday, third birthday, fourth birthday. More than 6-7 years we've been part of that family. So when we go to their parties anymore, I don't even feel like a photo. I feel like a guest. Uncle will call Kishor, how are you? What's happening? The party will go on and shoot organically. They'll be happy to see that. So it becomes genuinely like a member of family. And eventually they say, Kishor, please put your camera on. Brother, come and have dinner. So those are situations where I'm more than happy to go and shoot because I know they're welcoming as a family. They've known me for so many years that they also don't see anything awkward with me being there. That is because of that understanding and that level of warmth between each other.
One advice to the photographers who wants to come into the field, who wants to come into the industry, photography industry. And one advice to the photographers who are already into the industry for a good amount of time and has not seen success.
So I think the first part, which you asked about what is the advice of photographers coming into the industry, I think it's something I've spoken at length. It's about value addition. Why do you think you are going to be part of this industry? In whatever genre you choose, you could be a fashion photographer, wedding photographer, you could work in a film, but what is the value you're adding? Please question that yourself. And that's an answer only you can answer yourself. I cannot answer for Tarun, Tarun cannot answer for Kishor. It has to be innate thing. This is the value I feel I'm adding. Therefore, I will be a photographer. Therefore, I feel I can charge X amount or whatever it is and grow my career. And so you're clear about what is your value addition and you can be happy with that. The second question is, success is relative. What is success for you may not be success for me. What is success for me may not be success for you. So I think very often in life, we don't define success in a tangible, measurable way. It's thrown around as a word that's too casual. So is success for you shooting 100 weddings a year? Is success for you earning 1 crore a year? Is success for you buying a big house? What is success for you? Define it and then work actively towards it. Because for every success, there also has to be sacrifice. So if you say tomorrow I want to buy this house. Okay, the house cost is 1 crore. In 5 years, I want to buy. That means you have to earn 20 lakhs a year to buy in 5 years. How are you going to earn 20 lakhs a year? You start working on it. Or I want to win this XYZ award. Okay, who's won that award in the last 10 years? Research that award. Make it your life dream to win that award. Work on it and then see. And after that point, sometimes when you've reached that point where you have maybe thought you could win the award but have not won the award, you may not feel lost saying that I've worked enough to win the award, but it's not come because of luck.
It's out of hard work.
You've done the hard work. See, I'll tell you an example. I think when I was young, I wanted to buy a Royal Enfield bike. I asked my dad saying, will you buy a Royal Enfield bike? He said, no. When you earn money, you buy it yourself. I said, okay, I'll earn money. I think that time the bike cost maybe 1 lakh at that point. I think now it's much more expensive. I think after I earned 1 lakh money, I said, no, I don't want to buy a Royal Enfield bike. But I feel happy I've earned the money to buy the bike, but I don't want to buy the bike. Now I will choose to use it somewhere else.
On a bike.
I will choose to invest it somewhere else. But I've completed that circle in my head saying, I was capable of buying the bike. I have earned enough money by myself to buy the bike. I have consciously chosen not to buy the bike because my preference and priorities have changed over time. So that also changes. Your goals and success will change over life. And you may reach a point where you're saying, what goal I had 5 years ago may not be a goal today. And you may have achieved it very easily. What is important is you work in the right direction. You put the best of yourself and it will come the right way. You don't take shortcuts. Don't expect immediate results. It will take time. It will come and it has to come. But define your success. Define your success in a tangible, measurable way. Then you know what you want. Either it could be a number or it could be in some award. It could be whatever it is. You can define it in a way. Because saying that I want to be successful, everyone should know me. How do you measure that? What do you mean everyone should know me? Do you mean 500,000 people know you, 5 million people should know you, or 50 people should know you? Or do you want 50 very important people know you and 5 million not people know you? Or you may say, my success means, people should say Namaste Sir to me. People have different definitions of success. So define your success. Make it tangible, make it measurable, and then work towards it. And work in a very focused way. Because suppose you say tomorrow I want to buy this house, you may have to leave so many things along the way. But then you'll say, okay, I've reached this house, I've bought the house, I'm happy because that was my goal. But along the way, many sacrifices will have to be made. Very often in life, the sacrifice becomes too much for us as individuals. And we say, no, it's okay. I'll be happy with this because sacrifice is beyond my comfort zone. And that's also fine. So
someone who has decided what their success goal is, how does one achieve that?
So I think one part I will say is that it requires a lot of hard work, determination, and a certain mindset towards that. And that's probably the popular, well-versed answer. But the more unpopular answer will be that there's a lot of luck and chance to success, which is quite unpredictable. Because life is not really a linear journey. It is a very journey of ups and downs and swiggles and wobbles and all of these things. So there's a lot of level of chance required in success. I will even use my example for that. I shot posters for Kalki. I shot photos for Tarun's movies, Tarun Bhasckar's movies. Now this happened because I happened to go to the school that they happened to go to. I happened to live in the same locality as Tarun. Now who decided this? I didn't decide it. My father decided it. My mother decided, saying that we will live here, which happened to be two apartments down from Tarun's apartment. My father chose the school for me. I was too young to choose the school. He chose because he said, this school looks good. I want my son to study in the school. And he picked that school for me. And he worked to get me in that. There was none of my hard work or effort involved in that. But those decisions that they made have given me an excellent footholding and platform for success. So very often, and this is something my father says, is that you are not who you are. You are a product of your society. Kishor is not Kishor, he says. You are a product of society. Society has worked, supported and helped you to be who you are. Yes, you have worked hard yourself. You have put your best foot forward. You have, did everything you can to get to where you are. But you've been supported in many levels by society in very invisible fashion. It may not be a very tangible fashion, a measurable fashion, but invisibly society has helped you. It could be from your choice of university, choice of school, your peer group, your friends, your family. They've all come together in very small, minute ways to help you become who you are. Yes, you have worked very hard to use it as a platform to grow well, because equally there could be someone else who's also gone to the same school as you, who's also had the same opportunity as you,
same exposure,
but may have not chosen to become the same level as you because you've given hard work. So hard work is mandatory. It is the basic requirement. But to have that platform to do that hard work off is luck by chance. So it is very nice sometimes say I'm very hardworking, I've got it through where I am, but you should also be very thankful to the world and society who has helped you to get where you are. It is a combination of both. One without the other also will not work. You need to have that level of chance, that level of opportunity, and when the opportunity comes, you need to have a level of hard work and grit to take advantage of it. So there are people who have lost opportunities which has come to their doorsteps because of the level of discipline or hard work. There have been people who have had a lot of discipline and hard work but did not have the right opportunity to come. There's so many stories. I'm sure in your circle you will see everywhere this. So it's a combination of both. Opportunity, chance, luck and hard work. When they come together, you make success.
And what finally people say is overnight success.
There's nothing called overnight success. I think that's a very media-friendly misnomer. It is years and years of hard work that requires a lot of repeated efforts in a fashion that may not make sense to anybody else except for you. But sometimes you get there, sometimes you don't. God has different paths for all of us.
And that's a pretty good conversation that I had with you. So thank you so much for giving such insights about photography and your personal life.
Thank you for the opportunity.
It was a pleasure to have you on our show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So
hope everyone enjoys the discussion.
So do people get scared seeing your beard style?
I don't know. I don't think they do. I'm a fairly friendly person. There's nothing to hide. I think I just have this beard style because my wife likes it and she sees my face more than I see my face. So she being happy is more important than anyone else being happy. If she likes this beard style, I'm happy. If she just change it, I will change it. Because I don't look at my face. She looks at my face. So what makes her happy is fine for me. All right.
And one advice that you would like to give me?
Give you?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You're already so tall. You're so well built. You look like you go to the gym. I've got no hair. I've become fat. What do I give you advice?